What's up, you freaking geniuses? So in this video, I'm going to teach you how to find the center and radius of a circle when you're given just an equation. All right, so we're going to start with a couple easier examples and then do a couple where we have to complete the square. So those are going to be a little bit harder. Now, first, I just wanted to point out that I've already written the standard equation of a circle, which is up here. So it's just x minus h squared plus y minus k squared is equal to r squared, where h and k represent the x and y coordinates of the center of the circle, right? And then r represents the radius of the circle. So with that in mind, let's jump into this first example. So here we have x squared plus y squared is equal to 49. Now, the easiest way to find the center of this specific problem is by looking at x squared and y squared. So as you might notice, we don't have x plus or minus some number, right? Like we do up here, we have x plus or minus h. Here we don't have that, we just have x squared. So when you have just x squared, we know that the x coordinate of the center of the circle is at 0. And the same thing applies to y. So if you have just y squared, right? We don't have y plus or minus some number. We have just y squared, so we know that the y coordinate for the center of the circle is also at 0. So here we could see already that the center of the circle for this equation is at 0, 0. Okay, and if you wanted to kind of prove that to yourself a little bit, we could just plug this into the standard equation of a circle, right? So let's just write this equation out. So we have x minus h, and what would h be in this case? Well, again, we don't have a number here for h, right? So we would just plug in a 0. And it's squared, right? So then we have plus y minus k, and again, we don't have another number up here, so we would just plug in a 0 for k, and it's also squared, and that's equal to 49, which is just r squared, so we could just still write that as 49. Okay, so you can see here that the x and y coordinates for the center are at 0, 0. Okay, now the last thing that we have to do is solve for the radius. And the radius, again, is just this last part, which is equal to r squared, right? So all we have to do is take whatever number you have out here and set it equal to r squared. So here, to solve for r, we could say that 49 is equal to r squared. To solve for r, we could just take the square root of both sides, right? Those cancel out. So here we get that r is equal to 7. All right, so then the radius is equal to 7. All right, here's the next example. So now we have x plus 5 squared plus y minus 3 squared is equal to 9. So here, this is actually kind of helpful because it already looks like the standard equation of a circle, right? So here we can already identify our h, our k, and our r, or more specifically, our r squared, all right? So here we can see that the center, right, the center of the circle is right here. This is the x coordinate and this is the y coordinate. Now, the only difference here is you always want to take the opposite sign of what's shown here. All right, so for the center is going to be at -5 and +3. All right, that's the only little difference you have to do there. Now, in order to find the radius, again, all you have to do is take the number over here that's by itself and set it equal to r squared, right? So then here we're going to have that 9 is equal to r squared. So again, we could just take the square root of both sides. Those cancel out. So here we get that r is equal to 3. All right, here's the next example. So we have x squared plus y squared minus 6x is equal to 7. So the first thing that we want to do here is actually group our variables. So here, I'm going to rewrite this as, let's write the x's together. So x squared, and then we have minus 6x, and then I'm going to leave a little space, and then we have y squared, right? So we're going to say plus y squared, and that's all equal to just 7, right? So this is equal to 7. Okay, now the reason I left a space right here is because we are going to have to complete the square. And the reason we know that is because we're given two x terms right here, okay? So in order to complete the square, let me just remind you that this is all related to the quadratic equation, which is ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0, where a, b, and c are your coefficients. Okay, so this is basically what we're trying to set up right here. This is A, which there's no number there, so we know it's just a 1, right? This is B, and then C is what we're looking for. Okay, and in order to find this missing number, you can just use this formula right here. So it's going to be B over 2 squared. Okay, so we just need to plug in B at the very top, and again, B is -6. So then here we could simplify this down to -6 over 2 squared, and that's equal to -3 squared, which is equal to 9. Okay, so then we're going to plug in, we're going to say plus 9 right there. Now remember, whatever you do to one side of an equation, you have to do to the other, right? So we have to add that 9 on this side also. All right, great. So now that we've found our number, all we have to do is factor this guy right here. And we're going to factor this guy, right, because it'll create a perfect square trinomial. So here, let's draw in our parentheses. Now x squared, we can break that down into x times x, and then to fill in these two numbers, we need two numbers that multiply together to 9, but they have to add up to -6, right? So in this case, that would be -3 and -3. And the rest of our equation is right here, right? Plus y squared is equal to 16. Now here, x minus 3 times x minus 3, we could simplify that as x minus 3 squared, right? And then we have plus y squared is equal to 16. All right, now you might notice that it looks kind of like our standard equation of a circle, right? So now we can start identifying the center and the radius, all right? So the center and the radius. So the center is going to be at, this is our x coordinate, and then this is our y coordinate. So the x coordinate would be at +3, right? +3, and the y coordinate, since there's no plus or minus some number, would just be at 0, right? So then the center is at 3, 0, and then the radius, again, we just have to take our number over here and set it equal to r squared, right? So we get 16 is equal to r squared. Take the square root of both sides. So we get that r is equal to 4. All right, here's the last example we're going to go over. So it's x squared plus y squared minus 8x plus 4y minus 16 is equal to 0. So again, we have different x terms, and here now we have different y terms, and then we just have this constant right here. So in this case, again, we're going to have to complete the square. So the first thing we want to do is group our variables together. So let's get the x's together. So we're going to have x squared minus 8x, and then we're going to leave a space, right, because we're going to have some plus some number, and then we're going to do the same thing with the y's. So we're going to have y squared plus 4y plus some number, and then we have minus 16, but what we're going to do here is move the 16, since it's by itself, right, it's just a number, we're going to move it to the right side. So we're just going to say that this is all equal to 16. Okay, so again, in order to find these missing numbers, we have to complete the square. So remember, this is our A, this is our B, and this is our C. So in order to find the C, we would just use the formula B over 2 squared. And for this first trinomial, it looks like B is -8, right? So we're going to have -8 over 2 squared, which is equal to -4 squared, which is equal to 16. Okay, so we're going to have 16 right here. And remember, what we do to one side of an equation, we do to the other, right? So we have to add 16 to this side also. Now let's find this missing C number. So for that one, again, it's just B over 2 squared, and in this case, B would be equal to +4, right? So we're going to have +4 over 2 squared, which is equal to 2 squared, which is equal to 4, right? So then we're going to have a 4 right here and also right here. Okay, great. So now that we have these filled in, now we can start factoring, right? So let's factor this first trinomial right here. So we're going to have, let's see, x squared is x times x, and then two numbers that multiply to 16 but add up to -8. That would be -4 and -4. Okay, and then, sorry, I forgot a plus sign right here, plus. So then we're going to say plus. And then we're going to break down this trinomial, right? So let's factor this guy right here. So y squared breaks down into y times y, and then two numbers that multiply to 4 and also add up to 4 would just be plus 2 and plus 2. Okay, and that's going to be equal to this right here, which is 36. Okay, great. So now that we, again, have the same factors, we can combine them, right? So x minus 4 times x minus 4, we can write just as x minus 4 squared. And then we're going to add that to this one over here, right? Y plus 2 squared. And that's equal to 36, right? So now that this looks like it's in the same standard equation form, now we can start identifying our center and radius. So here the center would be, let's see, this is the x, this is the y. So the center would be at positive 4, negative 2. And the radius, again, just set this number equal to r squared. Take the square root of both sides. So then here, those cancel out, and we get that r is equal to 6.
So if you found the video helpful, definitely leave a thumbs up down below. And if you have any other questions or want to see any other examples, just let me know in the comment section below.